The starship Aurora glided silently through the dark expanse of space, its sleek silver hull reflecting distant starlight. Commander Elias Kane stood on the bridge, arms crossed, watching the swirling colors of the gas giant below. The mission was simple, so simple that it almost felt unreal. Serve Princess Lyra, the heir of Viridian, and ensure her safety while she carried out her diplomatic duties on her home planet. Elias's mind, however, did not find simplicity in the mission. For years, humans had dealt with alien races, some friendly, some hostile, but Viridian was different. Its people were rumored to be brilliant and mysterious, their technology centuries ahead of humanity's, and now, humanity's future relations with them depended on his small team of elite soldiers. "Commander," said Lieutenant Mara Jensen, approaching with a datapad in hand. Her voice was calm, but Elias could detect the undercurrent of tension she tried to hide. "We are approaching Viridian orbit. Princess Lyra's palace coordinates are locked. Estimated landing in 30 minutes. Good," Elias said, turning to look at the planet. Lush green forests stretched across enormous continents, dotted with turquoise lakes and rivers that seemed to glow under the planet's twin suns. There was something almost magical about the view, yet he knew beauty did not guarantee safety. "Not here, not ever." "Sir," Mara continued, "the intelligence team reports unusual energy readings around the landing zone. Nothing we can identify. Could be a natural phenomenon. Or something else." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Something else?" Mara shook her head. "Unknown, just be careful." Elias nodded, though he already felt a sense of foreboding. He had learned long ago that in space, the unknown was always more dangerous than the enemy you could see. As the Aurora descended into Viridian's atmosphere, the ship's sensors hummed and buzzed with strange readings. The forest below stretched like oceans of green, but there were areas where the colors seemed unnatural, almost shimmering. Elias felt a small pang of unease. The landing platform was immense, shaped like a flower, with petals extending outward and glowing faintly under the sunlight. As the ship touched down, Elias saw figures approaching. They were tall, elegant, and humanoid, but their skin shimmered in shades of pale blue and silver. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, intelligent and piercing, and they moved with grace that humans could only envy. From the group, one figure stepped forward. Princess Lyra. She was breathtaking, not just in appearance, but in presence. Her long silver hair flowed behind her, catching the light in a way that made it seem almost alive. Her eyes, deep violet and glowing faintly, met Elias's with a calm intensity. "Commander Kane," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "Welcome to Viridian. I trust your journey was uneventful." Elias inclined his head. "Your Highness, it was remarkable. Thank you for receiving us." Lyra's lips curved in a small smile. "Remarkable? I hope not in a troubling way." Before Elias could reply, her hand rose slightly and a subtle wave of energy seemed to brush over the landing platform. The crew felt it, a gentle pressure against the chest like a breeze that carried a message they could not fully understand. Mara whispered, her presence. "It's unlike anything we've felt." Lyra's attention shifted to the crew behind Elias. "Your mission is clear. Serve and protect me. Your human skills will be useful." Elias bowed slightly. "We will do our duty, Princess." The princess nodded, her gaze lingering on him just a moment too long. Elias felt a shiver, though he wasn't sure if it was from the planet's energy or something deeper. The palace itself was immense, rising from the forest like a crystal mountain. Its towers shimmered with a strange, translucent material, and the grounds were filled with gardens where plants moved subtly as if aware of their visitors. As they entered, the palace's doors closed behind them with a quiet hum, sealing them in a world unlike anything humans had ever known. Inside, the palace was a combination of technology and art. Walls were smooth and reflective, but holographic projections of flora and fauna floated in mid-air, shifting and changing with a slow, mesmerizing rhythm. Elias could feel the weight of history in every corner, as if the palace itself had witnessed centuries of secrets. Lyra led them to a large chamber, circular and open to the sky above through a transparent dome. In the center, a pedestal held a crystal that pulsed faintly. She gestured to it. "This is the heart of Viridian. It helps maintain the energy balance of the planet. You may feel its influence even while here." Elias stepped closer, feeling a warmth that wasn't entirely physical. The crystal seemed to resonate with him, stirring a strange sense of purpose. "Your orders are simple," Lyra said, her tone now sharper. "Protect me, serve me, observe, report, and act when necessary. Nothing more, nothing less," Elias nodded. Simple. That word, however, felt ironic. Already he had sensed the undercurrents of tension. There were whispers in the corridors. Security drones moved as if aware of unseen threats. Outside, the forest seemed to watch. The first night in the palace brought little rest. Elias found himself awake, walking the corridors, scanning for anything unusual. His team, trained for threats anywhere in the galaxy, reported minor equipment malfunctions. Sensors misfiring, communications briefly interrupted, doors locking and unlocking without reason. It was subtle, but Elias's instincts screamed that these were not accidents. Viridian itself seemed alive and perhaps cautious of the humans who had entered its heart. Morning brought a surprise. Princess Lyra requested a private meeting with Elias in the observation garden. She stood among plants that glowed faintly, her expression unreadable. "You are not like the others," she said suddenly. "Your kind humans are different, curious, resilient, dangerous if not guided." Elias studied her. "I will follow orders, Princess. Protecting you is my mission." Lyra's eyes softened almost imperceptibly. "And yet I sense you will do more than follow. Humans have a spirit, an ability to adapt that my people often lack. That may be the reason you are here." Elias blinked, unsure how to respond. "I will do what I can," she nodded, turning her gaze to the distant forest beyond the palace. "This mission is simple in words, but the world we live in is not simple. Threats are not always visible. Allies may not always be trustworthy. And the order to serve may lead to paths neither of us expect." Her words hung in the air, a subtle warning. Elias understood then that Viridian was a living puzzle, and their mission was only the first step in a journey whose challenges they could not yet imagine. That night, Elias returned to his quarters but could not sleep. He stared at the view of the forest below, feeling a mix of awe and unease. The planet was beautiful, yet it seemed to breathe, to watch, to wait. And in the back of his mind, a single thought repeated: what if the simple order he had been given was only the beginning of a far more complicated fate? Outside, the alien night sky sparkled with unfamiliar constellations, and the twin moons cast pale light over the palace towers. Somewhere deep in the forest, a creature moved, watching, assessing. And somewhere in the palace, Princess Lyra slept, her mind already aware of challenges that humans could not yet comprehend. Elias knew that by dawn, the simplicity of their mission would be tested. And though he could not yet see the path ahead, he felt one certainty: serving the alien princess would demand more than loyalty. It would demand courage, wisdom, and perhaps something that humans had always prided themselves on: a spark that could change destiny itself. And so, with the stars of Viridian shining bright above, Elias Kane prepared for a journey that would defy orders, challenge fate, and reveal the true potential of humanity in a universe filled with wonders beyond imagination. The morning sun bathed the palace in soft golden light, but the warmth did little to ease the tension that hung in the air. Commander Elias Kane walked briskly through the crystal corridors, scanning the surroundings with trained eyes. The palace was alive with activity. Viridian aides moving gracefully, security drones hovering silently, and servants tending to the lush gardens. Everything seemed peaceful, almost serene. But Elias had learned that appearances were rarely what they seemed on Viridian. "Commander Kane," Lieutenant Mara Jensen said, approaching with a data pad in hand. "We've received intelligence that a faction of Viridians is unhappy with Princess Lyra's alliance with humans. They could pose a threat," Elias frowned. "A threat? How serious?" Mara hesitated. "Unknown. They haven't acted openly yet, but they are organized. They could try to influence other Viridians, or worse, attack." Elias's jaw tightened. He had expected challenges, but never internal rebellion. This mission, he realized, was already more complex than he had been told. At that moment, the palace doors opened, and Princess Lyra glided into the hallway. Her silver hair caught the light, and her violet eyes were as sharp and thoughtful as ever. She smiled at Elias, though there was a hint of concern in her gaze. "Commander Kane," she said, "I am aware of the unrest. Some of my people do not trust humans. They see us working together as a betrayal of Viridian's independence. They do not understand that unity is our strength." Elias nodded. "Princess, we will protect you, but this..." Rebellion could be more dangerous than we anticipate. Lyra's expression grew serious. Danger is always present, but courage and strategy can turn it into opportunity. Show me, Elias, how your human mind handles such a challenge. The word struck Elias. In Viridian, even the princess acknowledged that humans had abilities that could not be ignored. Ingenuity, adaptability, resilience. Qualities that could change the course of events. That evening, the palace held a diplomatic ceremony in the central courtyard. Viridian dignitaries, human allies, and other species representatives gathered under a dome of softly glowing light. Elias observed from the edge, analyzing every movement, every interaction. His instincts, honed over years in human military service, told him that danger was near. Lyra moved through the crowd with poise, greeting her people and foreign guests alike. Her smile was warm, yet Elias noticed a subtle tension in her posture. The whispers of rebellion were not just rumors. They had infiltrated even the palace walls. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the courtyard. Security drones whirred and panic spread among the guests. Elias reacted instantly, drawing his weapon and moving toward Lyra. The princess remained calm, her eyes scanning the crowd with a keen intelligence. A device had detonated near the perimeter, sending a wave of energy that knocked drones off balance. Rebels had tried to make a statement. Elias acted without hesitation, shielding Lyra and assessing the situation. His team moved quickly, neutralizing the immediate threat while ensuring no guest was harmed. Once the chaos subsided, Elias turned to Lyra. "Are you unharmed, Princess?" She nodded, her calm demeanor unshaken. "Thanks to you, Elias, you acted swiftly. Your instincts are impressive." Elias felt a mix of relief and pride, but he also knew that this was only the beginning. Whoever planned this attack had resources, intelligence, and the audacity to strike in the heart of the palace. Later that night, in the quiet of the observation garden, Lyra spoke to Elias in a softer voice. The stars above reflected in her eyes, making them shine like twin amethysts. "You humans, you respond differently to fear," she said. "You face danger, you act. My people often hesitate. They overthink. They trust rules too much." Elias studied her. "And yet you lead them. You inspire them." Lyra smiled faintly. "Inspiration is fragile. Leadership is tested in the darkest moments. Tonight, you have shown courage. That is why I value your presence." Elias felt a strange warmth at her words, a sense of connection beyond duty. He had come to serve a princess, but he was beginning to see her as a partner in the challenges ahead. Days passed, and the rebellion did not stay hidden. Small attacks, sabotage of communication lines, and subtle manipulations of the palace staff revealed that the faction was growing bolder. Elias worked closely with Lyra, coordinating defenses, analyzing the rebels' strategies, and training human and Viridian allies to respond effectively. One evening, while reviewing security footage, Elias discovered something alarming. One of the palace aides had been feeding information to the rebels. The aide's loyalty was false, a puppet in a game of political intrigue. Elias reported immediately to Lyra. "Trust is fragile," Lyra said, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. "Betrayal can come from anywhere, even from those closest to us." Elias frowned. "What should we do?" Lyra paused, considering. "We act carefully, remove threats quietly, but we must also show our people that unity is stronger than division. That is the challenge of leadership." Elias respected her wisdom. Unlike humans who often relied on force first, Lyra balanced strategy, empathy, and insight. It was a combination that made her dangerous, in the best sense. The tension escalated when scouts reported a rebel gathering in the Verdant Expanse, a dense forest region considered sacred and dangerous by Viridians. Lyra decided to investigate personally, with Elias and a small human team accompanying her. As they entered the forest, the air seemed alive, filled with hums of energy that Elias could not explain. Trees twisted in unnatural patterns, glowing faintly, and strange sounds echoed through the foliage. He tightened his grip on his equipment, alert to every movement. "Stay close," Lyra said softly, her hand resting lightly on Elias's shoulder for reassurance. Her psychic presence, subtle but palpable, calmed him even as the forest seemed to watch. Hours passed, and the group found evidence of the rebels' presence. Campsites, abandoned supplies, and markings on trees that indicated organized movements. Elias realized the rebellion was more extensive than intelligence had suggested. Suddenly, movement in the underbrush caught Elias's eye. Shadows darted between the trees. He raised his weapon, signaling the team to prepare. A group of Viridian rebels emerged, their weapons unfamiliar but lethal in design. Lyra stepped forward, her hands raised. "We do not wish for unnecessary bloodshed. Stand down and you may live to see your people thrive in unity." The rebels hesitated, clearly wary of her presence. Elias, ever vigilant, watched for any sudden moves. Then, without warning, one rebel lunged toward Lyra. Elias reacted instinctively, pushing her aside and tackling the attacker to the ground. The skirmish was brief but intense. Elias and his team subdued the rebels, while Lyra used her psychic abilities to disarm and confuse the attackers, ensuring minimal harm. As the last rebel fled, Elias looked at Lyra. "You were right there," he said, still catching his breath. "But this could have been worse," Lyra nodded. "Yes, but it also shows us that fear cannot control us. Courage, quick thinking, and trust in each other. That is how we protect not just ourselves, but everyone who depends on us." The journey back to the palace was quiet, the forest settling into its natural rhythm as if nothing had happened. Yet Elias knew that the events of the day had changed something fundamental. The mission to simply serve the princess had become something more complex, something that demanded not only loyalty, but leadership, courage, and the ability to see beyond the obvious. That night, as Elias prepared his report, he reflected on the growing bond between humans and Viridians, and between himself and Princess Lyra. She had challenged his perception of duty, showing him that service was not just following orders, it was understanding, adapting, and sometimes taking initiative when fate demanded it. Outside, the twin moons of Viridian shone through the palace windows, casting silver light across the corridors. Somewhere in the city, whispers of rebellion continued, but the people also whispered of hope. Hope that unity between species could overcome fear, distrust, and even betrayal. Elias knew the path ahead would be treacherous. But for the first time since arriving on Viridian, he also felt a spark of something greater than duty. Possibility. Humanity had a role to play in this alien world, a chance to prove that courage, ingenuity, and resilience could shape destiny itself. And as he gazed at the stars above, Elias Kane understood that serving the alien princess was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, and fate, unpredictable as ever, had far more in store for him and Princess Lyra than anyone could imagine. The verdant expanse stretched endlessly before them, a living sea of green that shimmered faintly under the light of Viridian's twin suns. Commander Elias Kane led the human team cautiously, with Princess Lyra walking beside him. The forest was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Trees with translucent leaves, vines that moved slowly as if alive, and flowers that glowed softly in shades of blue and gold. Every step seemed to awaken some hidden pulse in the forest, a rhythm that made Elias's skin tingle. "Stay alert," Elias said quietly, scanning the surroundings. "The rebels may be nearby, but this place itself, I don't trust it." Lyra smiled faintly. "The forest is not dangerous by itself, Commander. But it is old, older than memory, and it remembers. It senses intention. Respect it, and it may guide you. Misstep, and it may guard secrets from you." The human team exchanged uneasy glances. They had trained for hostile planets, for ambushes, and even for traps in unknown terrains. But this forest challenged their understanding of reality. The air was thick with energy, yet breathable. Strange creatures flitted between the trees, some resembling birds, others more like shadows with faintly glowing eyes. Hours passed as they moved carefully through the dense forest. Lyra led them to a clearing where ancient ruins rose from the forest floor. Stone structures overgrown with glowing moss hinted at a civilization that had long vanished. Elias could see carvings on the walls, intricate patterns that pulsed faintly as if alive. "These ruins are older than Viridian's recorded history," Lyra explained. "They belong to a civilization that disappeared before my people even existed." "Their technology?" "It was extraordinary." Elias stepped closer, examining a stone column covered in symbols. "It looks like some kind of interface," he said. "Maybe a control panel, but it's more than that. It seems alive." Lyra nodded, placing her hand on the column. A faint light spread across the carvings, responding to her touch. Elias felt a surge of energy ripple through the air, The forest seemed to lean closer, curious, watching. This civilization, they understood energy differently, Lyra said. They could manipulate it without machines. Some of their devices respond to psychic energy. That is why they vanished. Perhaps they reached a limit they could not overcome. Elias's curiosity burned. Humans had always relied on tools, but here, Lyra demonstrated something far beyond ordinary understanding. So you're saying these ruins can work with your mind? Lyra's eyes sparkled. Yes, but only if the mind is attuned to the energy. That is why this place is dangerous for untrained humans. Your mind is strong, Commander, but it is not attuned in the same way. Elias felt a mix of awe and anxiety. He had faced hostile planets, alien species, and cosmic anomalies before, but never had he felt the world itself alive, watching, responding to thought. Suddenly, a low hum filled the clearing. Elias raised his weapon instinctively. Shadows moved among the ruins, figures dressed in cloaks, their faces hidden. Rebels or something else? Lyra stepped forward calmly. These are not enemies, she said, her voice carrying a power that seemed to still the air. The cloaked figures halted, their heads tilting as if recognizing her. One stepped forward, lowering the hood to reveal a Viridian elder, his skin shimmering like silver moonlight. Princess Lyra, the elder said, bowing slightly. You should not have come here with outsiders. The expanse is sacred. Lyra's expression softened. We mean no disrespect. We seek knowledge and understanding for the safety of my people and our allies. These humans are not my enemies. The elder studied Elias carefully. Humans, fragile yet curious. You survive because you adapt. Perhaps you can learn what my people once knew. Elias felt a flicker of pride. Humans had often been underestimated, yet their ability to adapt and solve problems had always set them apart. We will follow your guidance, he said respectfully. The elder nodded. Then observe and be careful. The ruins test those who enter. They reveal strength and weakness, and they do not forgive arrogance. Lyra guided the group into the largest structure, a circular building with a dome that seemed carved from crystal. Inside, a central platform pulsed with energy. Elias felt it almost like a heartbeat, rhythmic and alive. The air shimmered and faint symbols floated around the walls, forming patterns that shifted and changed as they watched. This is a learning chamber, Lyra explained. It responds to thought, memory, and emotion. It can teach, but it can also confuse and trap those who are not prepared. Elias looked at her, concern in his eyes. Are we ready for this? Lyra's gaze was steady. We must be. If we are to understand the rebellion, the planet, and the forces at work, we cannot ignore the knowledge of the past. The team split into pairs, exploring the ruins carefully. Elias and Lyra approached the central platform. As they stepped onto it, light spread beneath their feet. Symbols floated around them, responding to Lyra's psychic presence. She guided Elias's hand to one of the carvings. Focus, she said. Your mind can shape this energy. Imagine connection, understanding, and purpose. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the hum of the ruins. He concentrated on the concept of unity, human and Viridian cooperation and trust. Slowly, the carvings pulsed brighter, responding to his thought. He opened his eyes to see a faint map of the surrounding forest materialize in midair, showing hidden paths, secret passages, and areas where energy readings were strongest. This is incredible, Elias whispered. Your mind and mine. Together we can read the environment like a living map. Lyra nodded, a smile touching her lips. Exactly. Your ingenuity and my ability. Together we can navigate challenges that neither of us could face alone. The moment, however, was broken by a sudden tremor. The ruins shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. Elias grabbed Lyra's arm. What's happening? Lyra's eyes narrowed. Someone or something is triggering the security systems of the ruins. We are not alone here. From the shadows, cloaked figures emerged, rebels armed and ready. Elias reacted immediately, drawing his weapon and taking cover behind a stone pillar. Lyra, unarmed, raised her hands and the energy around her surged. Symbols on the walls glowed brightly, forming barriers and confusing the attackers. The humans engaged the rebels, moving with precision and coordination. Elias felt a surge of pride at his team's efficiency, but the battle was unlike anything they had faced. The ruins themselves seemed alive, responding to every move. Lyra's voice rang clear in the chaos. Elias, focus on the paths, not the attackers. Use the energy. Following her guidance, Elias adjusted his strategy, leading his team through hidden passages revealed by the map. They outmaneuvered the rebels, using the ruins' energy to create distractions and obstacles. Finally, the rebels retreated, unable to counter the combined human ingenuity and Lyra's psychic control. The chamber fell silent, the energy settling into a gentle hum once more. Elias exhaled, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. That was more than a fight. That was survival. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. And that is the lesson of these ruins. Knowledge and power are meaningless without wisdom and cooperation. You have learned well, Commander. Elias looked around at the glowing walls, the shifting symbols, and the silent forest outside. He realized that the verdant expanse was not just a place of danger, but a place of growth. Humans and Viridians working together could face challenges far beyond what either species could manage alone. As they made their way back to the palace, Elias reflected on the day's events. The rebellion was real, but so was the potential for unity. And Lyra, graceful, intelligent, and wise beyond measure, had shown him that humans had a role in shaping not just the future of Viridian, but the future of interstellar cooperation. The night fell over the palace as they returned, twin moons casting silver light across the towers. Elias stood beside Lyra in the observation garden, looking out at the distant forests. "You were amazing today," he said quietly. Lyra shook her head. "We were amazing. Alone, we could not have done it. Together we can accomplish far more than either of us imagines." Elias nodded. He had always believed in human potential, but here, on this alien world, that belief felt validated in ways he could never have anticipated. Humanity was not just surviving. It could thrive, adapt, and inspire even in the most alien of environments. And as the stars of Viridian twinkled above, Elias Kane knew that this was only the beginning. The ruins had revealed secrets, yes, but they had also revealed something more important: the power of cooperation, the spark of ingenuity, and the promise of a future where humans and aliens could face the unknown together. The palace seemed calm as the morning sun filtered through the crystal windows, but Commander Elias Kane knew better. Calm was often the mask before chaos, and the whispers of rebellion had grown louder. Intelligence reports had increased. More rebels, more sabotage, and a mysterious third party working behind the scenes. Elias's instinct screamed that danger was closer than anyone imagined. "Commander," Lieutenant Mara Jensen said, handing him a data pad. "Security footage review shows unusual activity last night. Someone on the inside is feeding information to the rebels." Elias scowled. "An insider? Who?" Mara shook her head. "We're not certain. Could be a palace aide or one of the human support staff." Elias's mind raced. Betrayal from within was far more dangerous than any attack from outside. Someone who knew the palace layout, the security systems, the schedule of Princess Lyra. Anyone like that could jeopardize everything. He immediately convened a meeting with Lyra. She sat in the observation chamber, her violet eyes focused on the forests below. "Princess," Elias began, "we have a serious problem. Someone inside the palace is working with the rebels. We need to identify and neutralize them before they strike again." Lyra's expression darkened. "I feared this. Trust is fragile, Commander. Even those who seem loyal may hide ambitions or fear. But we cannot act recklessly. Suspicion alone is dangerous," Elias nodded. "I agree. We need proof before taking action. But we must also prepare for any attack. They will try to exploit this betrayal." Lyra rose, moving to the holographic map of the palace. "The rebels are growing bolder. They are no longer content with sabotage. They want to confront me directly. And I fear this third party, an ancient alien influence that manipulates from the shadows." Elias felt a chill. They had anticipated rebellion, but now something far older and more dangerous was at play. "Then we must strike before they can act. We can't wait." Lyra's gaze met his. "And we will, Elias, but carefully. The palace, my people, and even the expanse itself, all of it is part of the test. You have shown skill, courage, and insight. Now we must use all of it together." The next night, chaos struck. A section of the palace's outer wall erupted in energy. Alarms blared as rebel forces attempted a full assault. Elias reacted instantly, leading the human team to defend the corridors while Lyra used her psychic energy to guide and protect those inside. The battle was fierce. The rebels moved with precision, Exploiting the palace layout in ways only an insider could, Elias realized that their suspicions were correct. One of their own had betrayed them. The team fought valiantly, holding back the attackers, but the palace itself seemed to resist. Doors locked, corridors shifted slightly, and energy fields pulsed in response to the intruders. Amid the chaos, Elias noticed Lieutenant Brand, a trusted member of his team, acting strangely, lingering near sensitive areas, speaking briefly with unknown figures outside security range. Something felt wrong. Brand, Elias shouted, confronting him in a corridor filled with energy barriers. Step away from the door. Brand froze, eyes widening. But then he lunged toward a control panel. Elias tackled him to the ground, grappling with his former comrade. The panel sparked and the room shook. Why? Elias demanded, pinning Brand down. Why betray us? Brand's eyes were cold. You don't understand. Humans should not interfere with Viridian. You weaken her people by being here. The rebels. They are right. You should leave. Elias's jaw tightened. I serve the princess. You failed your duty. Before Elias could react further, Lyra appeared. Her presence radiated calm but power. Energy pulsed from her hands, disarming Brand and securing the area. You forget, Elias, she said softly, that loyalty is more than orders. It is choice. Brand chose poorly, but the moment is over. We act now to protect those who cannot protect themselves. With Brand restrained, Elias and Lyra regrouped with the rest of the team. The rebels had retreated, but the battle had revealed something more alarming. The third party manipulating events was closer than they thought. Their attacks, their timing, their intelligence, it was guided by a presence older and more cunning than any rebel faction. Lyra guided Elias to the observation chamber. We must understand who we face, she said. The third party has an agenda. They want Viridian divided, humanity weakened. If we fail, more worlds will follow. Elias clenched his fists. Then we fight, Princess. Not just for Viridian, but for the future of both our peoples. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Yes, but strategy, courage, and wisdom, these will be our greatest weapons. The night passed without further incident, but the tension remained. The palace staff were shaken. The rebels regrouped somewhere in the forests, and the third party's shadow loomed large. In the days that followed, Elias and Lyra trained, planned, and strengthened the bonds between humans and loyal Viridians. Each moment brought lessons in trust, resilience, and strategy. And as the twin moons rose over Viridian, Elias realized that the simple order to serve the princess had transformed into a mission that demanded every ounce of human ingenuity and courage. The time would come soon for confrontation. The rebellion would not wait. The third party would not wait. And when it arrived, Elias knew that fate would demand more than obedience. It would demand heroism. The final confrontation came without warning. The rebels, backed by the ancient alien manipulators, launched an all-out assault on the palace. Energy beams lit the night sky and alarms rang across every corridor. Commander Elias Kane rallied his human team, coordinating with loyal Viridians to defend the princess and the heart of the palace. Positions, Elias shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Protect the princess at all costs. Princess Lyra stood at the central chamber, her hands raised as her psychic energy flared. Symbols on the walls glowed brighter, forming protective barriers that shielded the palace's inhabitants. Her calm presence steadied everyone around her, even as the corridors shook with explosions and tremors. The rebels advanced with precision, attempting to breach the palace defenses. But Elias's team, trained for interstellar combat, countered each move with skill. Humans and Viridians fought side by side, their combined strength turning back wave after wave of attackers. Amid the battle, Elias noticed the third-party manipulators attempting to interfere with the palace's energy systems. Their ancient technology disrupted the barriers, threatening to overwhelm the defenders. Lyra, Elias called. They're trying to break the shields. Lyra's eyes glowed, and she focused her energy, extending her psychic control over the palace systems. I will hold them, she said, her voice resonating with power. Elias led a small strike team to the control hub, navigating through collapsed corridors and energy surges. They encountered rebels and automated defenses, but the humans' ingenuity and quick thinking allowed them to bypass traps and reach the core systems. Once inside, Elias worked rapidly, rerouting energy flows, restoring systems, and countering the manipulative technology. He could feel the pulse of the palace responding to his actions, a synergy of human skill and alien power. At the same time, Lyra confronted the leader of the manipulative third party within the central chamber. Their psychic energies clashed, and the chamber trembled with raw power. Elias, sensing the danger, moved to assist. Together, human resolve and Viridian psychic energy created a shield of light that repelled the intruders. The rebels, seeing their plans fail and their leader defeated, fled into the forest. The ancient manipulators, realizing their influence was broken, vanished into the shadows, leaving Viridian in peace for now. Exhausted but victorious, Elias and Lyra stood together in the central chamber, the glowing symbol settling into a calm hum. Around them, humans and Viridians tended to the wounded, repaired damage, and began restoring order. "You were incredible," Elias said quietly, turning to Lyra. She shook her head. "No, Elias, we were incredible. Alone, neither of us could have done this. Together we proved that unity is stronger than fear, trust stronger than betrayal." Elias nodded. The experience had changed him. Serving the princess had started as a simple order, but it had evolved into a mission of survival, discovery, and leadership. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and resilience had shaped the outcome, proving that even in the most alien circumstances, humans could rise to meet challenges that seemed impossible. Days later, a ceremony was held in the palace courtyard. Lyra addressed the gathered Viridians and humans, her voice carrying over the shimmering gardens. "We have faced rebellion, deception, and ancient threats," she said, "and we have survived. Not because of any one person, but because of unity. Today humans and Viridians stand together, stronger than ever. Let this moment be the beginning of a new era, of understanding, cooperation, and hope." Elias stood beside her, pride swelling in his chest. Humans had earned respect not through dominance, but through courage, intelligence, and partnership. They were no longer outsiders, they were allies, friends, and a vital part of Viridian's future. As the twin moons rose that night, Elias and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, now calm and glowing softly under the celestial light. The forest beyond seemed peaceful, as if acknowledging the new harmony that had been achieved. "Commander," Lyra said softly, "your presence here has changed more than just this mission. You have helped show my people what humanity can offer: ingenuity, courage, and a spark of hope that can illuminate even two